Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a quick hit video, late night insight if you will. I didn't do a video today and I was actually setting up for a longer video. I'm going to do tomorrow this is not a top 10 and it's going to be a ranked list. Stay tuned tomorrow to find out which ingredient we're going to focus on, and it's a large one. It's a big video. So I hope you got your seatbelt on for that one. But for this one, this is going to be just it ended up being too late to do that video. I mean, I could, but I want to be energized. I got to get my rest, because I want those This Is Not a Top 10 and ranked videos to really be a celebration of perfume. I want to be able to talk about as many fragrances as I have the stamina to. And so I'm going to just do a quick video tonight on actually a new house for the channel, I should say, and a new house for me, because I have not talked about this house on the channel before. I have never smelled one of these before. This is the very first time. Excuse me whilst I hydrate. So, the house is a brand called Parfums Quartana. Are you guys familiar with this house? They came out in 2016 with a very interesting idea. And what they ended up doing in 2016 is they released 9 fragrances at once. And the fragrances were called the Les Potions Fatales line. And the idea was that each fragrance would be based on a poisonous flower, okay, or a fatal flower, if you will. And so the blurb basically says that Les Potions Fatales explores the treacherous beauty and intriguing lore behind 9 of the world's most poisonous flowers. At once tantalizing and perilous, these mortal flowers have been used to nefarious ends throughout history. Yield to their charms and surrender to a fragrant femme fatale or homme fatale, seductive on the outside, but ultimately dark, sinister, and deadly. Okay, so how's that for a fragrance idea? I love it. I love the idea. And there's a little poem, there's a little poem by Bast. Look at my blood flowers, because I write with a serene, sharp blade that soothes as much as cuts into the deepest parts of my soul. They have the perfumer right here. There's a little, look at this. This is actually a really nice sample pack. I'm a fan. And the atomizer is fantastic. It has a cap. Okay, I'm a big fan of atomizers with caps. I'm a big fan of samples with caps, I should say. And this little bit was sent to me by one of you kind perfume god people out there. I like it. I like the presentation. I like the brand so far. I like the idea. I like creativeness. I'm tired of the same old, same old. I want something different, and this brand delivers that for sure. Now, I just actually happened to pull up the brand, and so they released those 9 fragrances. I have this one, and I have one other one called Hemlock, but I don't have any of the other samples out there. But there's some other ones like Lily of the Valley, Digitalis, Poppy Soma, Midnight Datura, Mandrake, Venetian Belladonna, and Wolfsbane. So again, cool idea, very cool idea. So the one that we're going to talk about today is called Bloodflower. So Bloodflower, if you guys are, or maybe you're not familiar, but the rumor is that Bloodflower will literally grow in a pool of blood. So if someone gets cut in a field or murdered in a field, and blood seeps into the earth, that this flower will actually grow because of that. I think the flower itself is called the Mexican butterfly weed, but don't hold me to it. I am not a botanist. It is not my it is not my specialty by any stretch of the imagination. But apparently it's this orange, yellow, and red flower, and it's a milkweed is what it is. It's a type of milkweed. And so the rumor is that it grows in a pool of blood. That's the rumor. And the rumor is also it is poisonous. That its smooth stem contains this milky like sap that is poisonous. And actually, if like a monarch butterfly or something, lands on one of these unknowingly and eats the sap out of it, it will die. So, that's the idea behind the Bloodflower. Very interesting, okay? Very interesting idea. So what's the fragrance like? How do you create a fragrance to recreate that? What do you do, right? Well, this was done by a lady named Alexandra Carlin, and apparently she works for Simrise, one of the bigger fragrance houses or oil houses. And I'm familiar with her work because she made one of my favorite warm weather amouages, or I consider it a warm weather amouage, called Beloved Man. Now, it was a flop. No one else liked it. I'm probably the only person on earth that likes Beloved Man. I love it. I think it's posh. I think it's elegant. It's got that elemi grapefruit and iris with this leathery vetiver patchouli dry down. Beautiful, okay? That came out in 2013. She then made this in 2016. She hasn't made much else, to be honest with you. I mean, she has, but nothing that I rate. She did Honor Woman, which I would love to smell. I've never smelled that one. She did Kyoto for Diptyque, which came out last year, which is that beet juice one or whatever. I'm not really interested in that. She did a fragrance in 2009 called Black Soul for Ted Lapidus, which I wouldn't mind smelling. And they brought her back last year. Amouage brought her back last year to do Honor 43, the extrait version, the one that Amouage charges double the price for 43% perfume oils. Exceptional extrait is what Amouage calls it. But anyways, long story short is she has done some stuff, but not a whole lot. I mean, she's done some things, but I would say as far as what I know, all I really know from her work is Beloved Man, which I'm a big fan of, and now this, Bloodflower, which I'm also a big fan of. And I've been wearing it for the last hour or so. And here's kind of my early impression. Now, keep in mind, this is just an early impression. Things can definitely change. One thing I will mention is it's marketed by a company I've never heard of. The company is named 6 Cents Parfums. And 6 Cents Parfums is a New York-based firm. 56 Rivington Street, suite number 54A in New York, New York. How about that? Never heard of 6 Cents Inc. So this is maybe truly one of the smaller, independent niche brands. It's not owned by L'Oreal or it's not owned by Estee Lauder or anything like that, right? It's not owned by Puig. It's not owned by the big dogs. It seems to be a little bit independent. And I like this house idea. And they actually have a new fragrance that just came out this year. So for the first time since 2016, this Parfums Quartana has a new fragrance out. I think it's called Ierfonte. Ierfonte, I probably butchered that name. But it was done by Luca Maffei, and it's like this suede fuel note. I'm a fan already. Suede and fuel, count me in. With styrax, smoked leather, cashmeran, vetiver, amber. I'm telling you guys all this because anytime you smell a fragrance from a house for the very first time, you're not just smelling the fragrance. You're also getting like an introduction to the house. Is this something that I want to go further on? Is this a house I want to explore more? And that early impression, that first impression, is so important for a fragrance house. Rich Mitch just recently did some videos on Parfum d'Empire, my brother from another mother across the pond in England, the Duck. And he, initially I think smelled one from Parfum d'Empire called Wazamba. Hated it. I think it was Wazamba or Iskander or something. I can't remember. It was one of those two, Wazamba or Iskander. I haven't smelled either of them. But he's like, I hate it. The brand is not for me. And I kept telling him, dude, you got to check out Parfum d'Empire. They're quality stuff. So then he went back and actually got the full sample set, and he's like, you're right, it is quality stuff. I just must have happened to get like a bad one to begin with. And so the very first one you smell from a brand is very important. That's why every single offering that a brand puts out should have meaning. Brands should never just put out fluff. They should never just put out filler fragrances, right? Because that fragrance could be the first one someone smells from that brand and go, nope, I'm not going to try anything else, and just write the whole brand off. And that's a shame. It really is. In this case, here's kind of what I get. So it opens up with this spicy, slightly floral, okay, with one of the most forward licorice notes I've ever smelled. Now, I've smelled licorice in perfume before, okay? It's not anything that is, groundbreaking or new. There's a licorice note in Kenzo Jungle, which I love. That's a woman's fragrance I love. There's a licorice note in Eau Noir, which I also love. I don't own a bottle, but it's very good. There's a licorice note in Fate Man by Amouage, which is very good. I love Fate Man. So there are fragrances with this licorice note that I have smelled before and that I'm familiar with. It's not something, it's not a novel idea. You don't find it very often, or you don't find it used. It's not a common note to use, okay? Whenever you see a licorice note, it'll kind of raise an eyebrow, let's say, but it's usually not in the forefront of the fragrance. Here, as soon as you spray Bloodflower, you're going to get this licorice. And it is a pure black, thick, tarry. Don't think about those little tiny licorice like strings that you can pull. Think of the big fat licorice. There's always different ways to make licorice, right? Sometimes you'll find them where they're like thin and stringy and all this stuff. No, this licorice is thick and fat. And I'm going to put a cough drop in so I don't start coughing in your ear. Hang on, one moment. Don't leave me. You like my REM shirt? I love REM. They're one of my favorite bands. Okay, so you get this this forward licorice note that is not reserved, not shy, not playing second fiddle to hardly anything. It is right there. It's almost like it's framed, and that licorice note is framed with blood. Imagine like dried, pooled blood, right? In your brain, when you think about blood drying, do you think about it maybe like condensing and thickening and hardening and maybe turning into like the consistency of licorice, right? I mean, I know it's crazy what we're talking about, but play along, okay? So imagine that licorice consistency, and imagine a blood flower literally growing in a pool of blood. And it sounds gross. It's not. It's actually really beautiful. Excuse me. It's really beautiful. And it's really artistic. And that's the number one pro of this fragrance for me. Because I'm so sick and tired of these fragrance houses doing the same thing over and over and over and repackaging the same crap and charging $300 for it. I'm tired of it. If I smell one more thing that is a derivative product of a fragrance that came out 10 or 20 years ago, I'm going to scream. So this is a breath of fresh air. This is absolutely a breath of fresh air. This is unique. This is different. This is maybe somewhat challenging to some people, although this doesn't seem challenging to me. It seems more artistic. So when I smell this, I go, okay, now we're cooking with something. This is a house that's willing to take chances. And most of my favorite houses are houses that either have a, big history behind them, or they're willing to take chances. And like Amouage under Christopher Chong is a perfect example of that. I love a house that is willing to go off the beaten path and do something different. Beaufort London is a perfect example of that. And there literally is a blood note in this. Now, what I will say is this. There's a blood note. but it doesn't smell like blood. It almost smells more like Bloody Mary mix to me. Like spicy Bloody Mary mix. You ever had that spicy Bloody Mary mix? You ever like maybe been so hungover you couldn't even drink it with alcohol, so you just drink it plain? Think about that spicy Bloody Mary mix straight out of the can or bottle. That tomato heavy forward feel. Imagine that behind the licorice. Okay, so the licorice is forward. That tomatoey Bloody Mary mix is kind of in the background, imitating the blood. The licorice is imitating maybe the consistency. Okay, it's giving you heft. It's giving you texture to the fragrance. To my nose, it's giving you texture, and what an artistic idea. I love it. And there is something dangerous about this scent. When you smell it, there is something that almost makes you feel a little bit unsettled, a little uncomfortable, you know. And again, I like this. I like the artistic path that it's going down. This is not for people that want compliments. Excuse me. It's not. This is dark and artistic, and there's an anise note which will come to the forefront very early as well. Well, not to the forefront, but it becomes noticeable. Within 5 minutes, you'll be able to pick up the anise. And the anise note is traditionally masculine to my nose. You know, you think about these old school vintage masculines that use the note of anise. You think of the Azzaro Porrons. You think of Tuscany per Uomo. You think of Lolita Lampica Au Masculin, right? You think of those kind of masculine fragrances that use the note of anise, and it was very popular in the 70s as well. The 70s and 80s, there was a lot of masculine. Capucci Pour from the 60s had anise. Jill Sanders fragrances had some anise in them from time to time. I think Background may have. YSL Jazz had anise. So anise is a traditionally masculine note. And to my nose, this fragrance leans traditionally masculine. But this would smell stunning on a woman. Because remember when I first sprayed it, I said there was something floral about it. Somehow floral. Even though there's no floral notes listed, somehow it comes across as giving this earthy, dirty floral, right? Even though it isn't. Even though there's no floral, there's a zero florals. There's a clover note listed. There is iris. But the iris actually adds something beautiful to a fragrance that may otherwise seem like a tragedy. You know, it may seem like everything is all death and, you know, bloodshed and seeing the flower grow out of the blood where, you know, the guy was cut with the knife or whatever it is, right? That image may come to your mind, and you may think it's a tragedy. You may think it's even gothic. There is something gothic about this scent. Actually, gothic is a good word. Because the rose, actually there is a flower note in here. I lied. There's a rose note, but it's a black rose note. Black rose. So you have licorice and black rose. So this would smell very mysterious on a woman. Extremely mysterious. On a guy, I don't know how this would come across. Honestly, I wouldn't care. I would still wear it because I really like this fragrance so far. And I mean, look at the packaging. Does that not paint the picture of what I'm kind of talking about just perfectly? The notes here are licorice, anise, blood accord, clover, orris rose, amber, and patchouli. So it lists iris here instead of orris. It lists black rose instead of rose. But they're pretty much spot on. The clover Adds this green, spicy, almost earthy vibe to me. You know, clover was a very important note in Aramis from 1964. This one right here. Clover was a very important note in this. And this is one of the most traditional masculines you can think of from the 60s. Bernard Champ created this. And I just bring it up because that clover note is extremely distinct, extremely unique. And even though this is a niche fragrance from 2016, the clover note almost takes you back 50 years. You know, it just has this transportative quality to it. And the patchouli adds this much needed heft, because how can you have a dangerous scent and have a shy fragrance? It wouldn't work, right? You need something that's bold and challenging and in your face. And the patchouli grounds it. It keeps it heavy. It keeps it, it keeps it thick. It keeps the fragrance very thick. And it's good. I mean, it's very good. There's very little bad I can say about this. If you're somebody that wants, the most wearable fragrance, if you're someone who owns 2 or 3 bottles of perfume, and let's say one is Sauvage, one is Bleu de Chanel, and one is Eros, you won't like this. This will be too challenging for you. But if you're someone that has 50 fragrances or more in your collection, let's say, and you're big into the artistic side of things, if you buy fragrances to smell art in a bottle, this is something you should test. It is. Because they really recreated this dusty, this earthy, spicy, dusty, bloody, floral, but the iris adds this beauty. It's almost like looking at a tragedy and seeing the beauty in it, It's almost like seeing the beauty in a horrific scene. And I mean, for a fragrance to paint a picture like that really shows the artistic quality. I'm a fan. I'm absolutely a fan, 100%. Would I buy a bottle of this? Maybe. I don't know. I want to test the rest of the line out, though, I'll tell you that. And I'd love to smell their new one. But yes, to the person who sent me this, the perfume god person who sent me the Parfums Quartana, thank you. I can't wait to do the hemlock one. And really, I'd love to kind of dive into the house and sniff some more. This has been very interesting. And, the thing about doing these is you could wear 5 fragrances a day all over your skin, and you'd never even make a dent in the amount of perfume that's out there. There is just so much crap out there. There's 1,000 fragrances, and it's almost like trying to find that needle in a haystack for the couple good ones, every single year. And so I just want to put my thoughts out there on as many of these as I can. That was kind of my goal in doing these early impressions. Is I don't own a bottle, right? So this is probably my only chance to talk about it and give you my thoughts. And if it helps even 1 or 2 people, I find it worth it, because it's so hard to keep up. There's so much stuff out there, and unless you're constantly testing, constantly trying, constantly wearing, constantly, getting your nose on new stuff, you're inevitably, it's an inevitability. Stuff's gonna slip through the cracks. You need people you trust to say, try this, try that, don't try this sucks, this is good. And there's very few people like that can be trusted anymore, because everyone is on here. They're on the free bottle train. They're on the everything is great. Oh, this is the greatest thing I've ever smelled in my life. Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh, yeah, send me the next one, brand. They're all on that. And so there's very few people who are, willing to take the time to sort the wheat from the chaff. And so that was the idea with the channel. So I hope you got something positive out of this. I hope you learned about kind of a new, cool brand. New and cool for me. I have heard of them. I think I've heard Persolaise talk about this brand, Parfums Quartana, before, but I've never actually smelled it. And so I'm very lucky to get to smell it today. So to my perfume god person for this, thank you. You know who you are. Thank you very much. And for everyone out there watching, if you have any experience with Parfums Quartana, I would love to hear your thoughts. If you are a fan, if you hate them, if you love the idea, hate the idea, let me know in the comments. I'd love to, you know, get you guys' feedback. Plus, I love just seeing your faces in the comments. So this was a short video, long video tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers, guys. Bye now.